Just even this 20 minutes, we'll do 20, 25 minutes. Just thinking for this few minutes, we're going to be conscious, you know. We can see with our minds most of the time, because we're on autopilot and we do things habitually. Everything's just programmed in our mind, and 90% of our lives, we're just doing habitual things, you know. What's wrong with this here? So here for this few minutes, we're going to be trying to be conscious. And what we're going to do is this little meditation using the Sanskrit language. All the lamas say that it's kind of, the sound is the purest of sound. And because in the Vajrayana way of describing things, there's this intimate relationship between our mind and between our physical energy. And so especially the subtle level. At the grosser level, we've got the sensory consciousness and the physical body, and they're inextricably linked. But at the subtle level, we've got these 72,000 subtle channels, like our subtle nervous system, and this subtle wind energy going through all those channels. And our minds, all our different states of mind, all our different mental states are inextricably linked to these different wind energies, you know, all inextricably linked. So every tiny thing that our mind does impacts upon the wind, and that eventually is what produces our grosser physical bodies in the future, karmically. And so everything we do with everything we do with our speech, which is the wind energy, which is subtle physical, impacts upon the mind. So just saying mantra, which are made up of these Sanskrit sounds, really can purify not only our mind, but also our body. There's a lot of logic to it if we understand that model, you know. This is great, yeah. So this little meditation is a way of purifying our bodies and our speech and our mind altogether. And the meditation is that. And also it's one of these marvelous practices if we really start to understand the benefit of speech and the way our speech, we don't think of it in our culture. We don't have meditations on speech. It sounds so peculiar. We don't think speech matters, you know. I'm allowed to say what we like, we think, as if it has no kind of kind of consequences. But as we know with the Buddha's view, everything we think and do and say is a part of the process of simply producing ourselves. And so it's one of the marvelous ways of controlling our speech. One other way is simply to be silent, you know, but to say mantra and to say the Sanskrit syllables is a really marvelous way. It's a practice, and it helps us become conscious. So we just visualize, if you've taken empowerment, you manifest out of emptiness as the deity. And if not, you just simply visualize Buddha above your crown. Feel the presence of enlightened mind above your crown. And now a little refuge prayer. I take refuge in the three jewels. May I become a Buddha to benefit all. I take refuge in the three jewels. May I become a Buddha to benefit all. Konchog, Sumla, Kyabsu Chi, Drola Penchir, Sangye Shog. So now we do the visualization. If you can go down a bit, back up a bit first, please. Yeah, up to the first page. To the first page, please. The first page, please. That's it, right there. That's it. Stop there. Okay. So now we visualize, okay? We visualize on our tongue. There's a syllable R. If you don't know the Sanskrit or Tibetan, then you can visualize the Roman letters, AH. And then you imagine now it just transforms into a moon disk, like a flat white cushion on your tongue. So on top of that, there's now a white Om standing upright in the center of your of the moon cushion. And then you imagine now it's surrounded by the white vowels. So we have to imagine them, you know, going clockwise, the Sanskrit syllables circling the white Om on the white moon disk on your tongue. And then you imagine now the red consonants are circling counterclockwise with the white syllables, red, circling the other way. And then circling those are the blue syllables of the dependent related heart mantra, the mantra of dependent arising. All of this on your tongue, white, red, and blue, the vowels, the consonants, and the syllables of the dependent related heart mantra. So now you imagine the light goes out, the three colors go out to all the 10 directions, north, south, east, west, northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, and up and down, the 10 directions of the universe, and hooks, think it hooks the energy of the power of speech, which means the power of speech of all the Buddhas, all the Bodhisattvas, all the yogis, all the great practitioners. And what that means is from practicing, you know, from refraining from negative speech, from being silent, and from reciting mantras, and as practicing and have realized emptiness and achieved bodhicitta, the speech of these holy beings, the speech of these beings is necessarily powerful. And because in our ordinary life, we need speech. This is how we survive as humans. It's how we communicate. And if people don't like our speech or don't believe what we're saying or pay no interest in it, then we can't achieve anything, you know. So the power of speech is what we need, not to mention benefited sentient beings. So the power of this, imagine this light beams, hooks the energy of all the holy beings, the power of their speech. And all that power of speech returns with the lights and comes back and melts into the syllables on our tongue, making them radiant and marvelous and powerful, full of the power of all the holy beings. Imagine that. So then we can go down the page. So now what we can do is we recite the vowels. As we recite the vowels, we visualize that white nectar pours down and up from these vowels, filling our entire body and purifying our body. So purifying, first of all the sickness, the difficulties we have with our bodies, the pains, the aches, the things that go wrong, you know, and also in particular, purifies all the imprints of all the actions we've ever done. I mean, in this life, think of some of the actions we've done with our speech, with our mind, with our bodies that harm others. I mean, just by existing, we're harming others. But all the the intentional actions, the karmic imprints of all of these, and since beginningless time, all the imprints of all the actions we ever have done, using our bodies to harm sentient beings. All of this, we imagine, is totally purified, completely washed away by this blissful white nectar filling us as we say the mantra, as we say the syllables. Om, I, u, ri, li, e, o, ang, swaha. Om, I, u, ri, li, e, o, ang, swaha. Om, I, u, ri, li, e, o, ang, swaha. Totally purified. Your body light, clear, not an atom of any negative karma left of the actions of our body. full of this white nectar. Be so pleased. Imagine this. So now as we recite the consonants, the red nectar pours up and down, filling our entire body, and this time purifying our speech, purifying, our feeling, the feeling we have, we don't know what to say, or the words we say aren't right, we're not expressing ourselves clearly, or I understand that, but I can't say it. We'll say the inability to say what we feel. Then all the negative speech, the speech that harms others, the lying. And even if we don't lie, I often think of this, even if we don't intentionally lie, because we're so eager to say the right thing and to know what we're talking about, we blurt out whatever we think, and we're speculating half the time, and we mislead people. We're not clear that we don't even know what we're talking about. This is not uncommon, because there's always so much talking and so much conversation. And look at the words expressed as words on websites. It's just like on the internet, there's just words just pouring out, and 99% are just nonsense. So anything we've even said that is we're not clear that it's not true. It misleads people and confuses our own mind, All of this totally purified by the red nectar filling us. And then all the harsh speech, abusing people, and all the speech behind backs when people aren't there, which is what we do all the time, about our families, about politicians, about the next door neighbors, about other people. We're endlessly criticizing, endlessly finding fault. All of this. And all the speech that's just meaningless. We can see this is not uncommon, So all of this completely purified, completely eradicated, so happily, as we say the mantras, say the syllables, it's full of this blissful red nectar. Om ka 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 ganga cha 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 janya ta 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 dana ta 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 dana pa 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 bama yadadawa shasha sahaksa svaha. Om ka 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 ganga cha 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 janya ta 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 dana ta 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 dana pa pa ba bama yadadawa shasha sahaksa svaha. Om ka 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 ganga cha 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 janya ta 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 dana ta 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 dana pa pa ba ba ma yada dava shasa sa haksa svaha. And our speech now, full of this red nectar, and our speech, imagine it, totally purified. And imagine whatever we say benefits whoever hears it. I mean, that's the interesting point. Think about speech. If we're trying to be like bodhisattvas, it's one of the actions, it's the key action of the Buddha. It's the key action of the bodhisattvas. The words we say, they're supposed to benefit sentient beings, I mean, words, they say when we're with others, we really work with our body and speech. That's for the sake of others. That's the bodhisattva attitude. When we're on our own, we work on our mind, So our mind is our benefit. But our body and our speech, that's what others see and hear. So if we're trying to practice the bodhisattva path, that's a very conscious practice. We're there for others, rather than this thought that there's just me plonking through life, doing and saying what I want. Speech and body are for others. So imagine also our body too, having purified, with the vows. Our body, whoever sees us, whoever sees us can benefit from our presence. And whoever hears our speech now will benefit. That's amazing. Want that, Full of this red nectar. And so now we purify our mind, the source of all of it, the source of our enlightenment and the source of our suffering, the mind. In this case, our thoughts. So now the blue nectar, completely filling us as we recite, dripping down, this nectar dripping down from the dependent-related heart mantra syllables. Of course, dependent arising is the main way to realize emptiness. So thinking, we're completely purifying the thoughts, the conceptual thoughts. We live in the level of conceptual thoughts. And so what we're purifying is not, we're purifying the misconceptions. We're purifying the root delusion, the misconception that there is an intrinsic, independent me and everything else. I mean, it's so primordial. When we hear that we do this, we don't notice it. I mean, whoever thinks that we think things are interdependent, thinks things are intrinsic, they have an inherent nature, it's so subtle. It's confusing to us. But this is what this primordial root delusion does. It's its job to present the world to us in a way that it doesn't exist, as having no intrinsic nature, as being separate from our mind. Everything's interdependent. Everything's dependent arising, dependent upon causes, dependent upon parts, and then crucially, most subtle, dependent upon the mind labeling it that. And so we imagine this blue nectar purifying the misconception that prevents us from seeing this. And then, of course, all the other misconceptions, the delusions, the afflictions that culminate, that result from this. Attachment, this primordial emotional hunger, dissatisfaction, misconception that misrepresents the entire world back to us. Attachment exaggerates the deliciousness of things. So this purifies all that attachment. And then it purifies all the anger, aversion. And then it purifies all the other misconceptions that are rooted in this primordial misconception of ego grasping. So imagine all these misconceptions, all these delusions, all these neuroses completely annihilated. And the crucial thing that Buddha has found is that because they're not intrinsic to our mind, they're not part of our mind. They're not an intrinsic part of our mind. Therefore, they can be removed. So we so happily imagine this, visualize this, full of this blissful blue nectar as we recite these syllables. Om ye dhamma he tu prabhava he tun te shan tatagato yevadat te shan shayo niroda evam vadi maha shamana ye svaha. Om ye dhamma he tu prabhava he tun te shan tatagato yevadat te shan shayo niroda evam vadi maha shamana ye svaha. Om ye dhamma he tu prabhava he tun te shan tatagato I evadat te shan chayo niroda evam vadi maha shramana ye svaha. Full of this blue nectar. And remember that now the delusions are gone, what's left? Only the virtues. This is the point the Buddha is making. And what's that? First, realizing interdependence. There's no separation between me and you. Infinite wisdom, infinite compassion, infinite kindness, just naturally. Because now with the addition of bodhicitta, we perfected the virtues in our mind. These are who we really are. These are what are at the core of our being. The delusions aren't. This is the fundamental point of the Buddhist teachings. Everything leads us to this. The eradication of the neuroses and the perfection of the goodness and the wisdom. So imagine this. Our mind radiant, clear, virtuous, wise, blissful. That's the bonus. So now think, you know, that our body, speech, and mind are perfected. We've purified the bodies, purified the speech, and purified our mind. How amazing. We can see this in many of the meditations. There's different ways of doing the same thing. It's so marvelous. So now visualize, imagine that these blue syllables on our tongue melt into the red consonants. And the red consonants melt into the white vowels on our tongue. And then the white vowels dissolve into the the red consonants dissolve into the white vowels. And then the white vowels dissolve into the om. And the om dissolves into the moon disk. And the moon turns into an ah. And this ah transforms into pink-colored nectar that dissolves into our tongue. And imagine it becomes of Vajra nature, indestructible. So that nothing can disturb now the power of your speech. And that your speech now have confidence, as Rinpoche says, have faith, confidence, that all the power and all the blessings of all the speech of all the Buddhas, all the Bodhisattvas, all the yogis, all the holy beings have completely entered your speech, and that your speech is perfected. Think, I have perfected my speech. And the second that sentient beings hear you, this is the point. This is the power of speech. That you can help them subdue their emotional and disturbing thoughts. Just the sound of your voice, the words you say, will help sentient beings. This is, I mean, incredible. This is incredible. Just a word, a kind word, can be a benefit to whoever hears you. This is so special. Imagine this. So by thinking in this way, as Rinpoche says, the power of your speech becomes marvelous. And whatever you recite, all your prayers or your mantras are much more powerful, much more virtue, and purify, your own mind and your own body. Be so happy with that. So imagine now that the Buddha dissolves into you, or you dissolve, and then you just imagine, expanding just for a few minutes, and just contemplate. Just imagine yourself expanding to fill the universe. Clear, vast. No thoughts. Just for a couple of minutes. No thoughts. Vast, clear, spacious, wise, blissful, virtuous. Your natural state. And then now just think for the rest of the day, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening for us, we're going to make the most of this. And we're going to, we're going to make conscious effort to control our speech. I think we really would be surprised. We're so convinced that being a Buddhist means working on our mind, which is true. And we think, I must meditate. And it's true. But what we don't understand is that there's so much we can do with our body and speech first. This is a revelation when we understand it, I tell you. I mean, this is the way Buddhist teachings are presented. First, you control your body and speech. You control the servants of your mind. When we understand this, it's really quite powerful. I know when I first heard it, I just thought it was boring, But you can't possibly control your mind if you can't first control the servants of your mind. It's obvious. When we realize this, we realize instead of having to, people have questions about, I'm with my family and I go crazy, all the people negative. What am I going to do? Just control your speech. Don't worry about your mind. Just control your speech. When you're with others, you control your body and speech. When you're on your own, you can work on your mind. When we're with others, we control our body and speech. This is already a powerful practice, I tell you. It's a powerful practice. And then you don't make trouble. Then you harness your energy and then you feel better about yourself. Because the trouble is, words blurt out our mouth and the damage is done. So it's a powerful practice, intentionally controlling our speech. Of course, if you're quiet and never say anything, then maybe you're different, something different, And our trouble is too, we think if I control my speech, we just become passive. Or we think, our trouble is because we don't know our minds. We think we have to say something to know what we're thinking, and that's our problem. But it's a powerful practice when we can understand it. So make the most of the rest of the day in this way. I'm going to control my speech, control my body, and then control my mind. So that's it, dearest people. I'm sorry I'm late. I have to get an internal something in my head. So sorry. All right, everyone. Make the most of whatever you got left of the day. And I thank you so much, everybody. Goodbye.